Hello, welcome to Access. I'm Rob. Joining us is Rosie.
Hello, everyone.
Rosie, I have played Guardians of the Galaxy.
You lucky thing.
Yes,
Tell me all.
a whole 2 hours of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, wow. Chunky sum.
A chunky sum.
A chunky
indeed.
sum.
And I'm going to tell you 5 reasons you should not sleep on this game. Because the first reason, the combat, which is probably what you're going to be doing for a lot of the game, is incredibly satisfying and solid and just a lot of fun to play. I will say, when I first started it, I got my ass kicked in the very first fight.
You've got to do it, though, in the first fight.
And that was a surprising thing to me, because I was like, I'm just going to breeze through this. It's cool. It's fine. I was dropped in at chapter 5. I just would like to clarify. So, not at the beginning of the game. That's my excuse. But I went back in and I did start to get the hang of it. And when you do get the hang of it, there's a really pleasing fluidity and flow to the combat. You control Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord. You can only control Peter Quill.
Okay.
But you can sort of assign almost Mass Effect style. Like, you can bring up like a dial and you can order the other Guardians to do some of their abilities, and they will sort of fight on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But you are controlling Peter Quill, and he is really good to fight with. He's got like his basic attack is he's got his twin laser pistols. They've probably got an actual name that fans of Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be screaming at me in the comments before. He's got his guns and he shoots with his guns, and there are various, as is the norm, various abilities you can unlock as you level up with his guns. So I had like a charged shot. Mm-hmm. The coolest thing though was you don't have ammo. It's sort of like it reminded me of Returnal, where you can just fire the weapons off and they will get to a point where they overheat.
I was going to say, is there a heat monitor? And
then they go on a cooldown. But when they're on the cooldown, there's like a little window where if you press fire again, as the cooldown is within that specific window, again, just like Returnal, mm-hmm. the gun will automatically be fully charged and ready to go. And
nice.
You'll even do like a special, really fast quick fire attack. Mm-hmm. So there's that sort of really pleasing risk-reward element of, shall I go for the special? Shall I overheat my guns here and go for the special? If I can time it right, I'll get like a really good sort of attack going.
Yeah.
Get a really good rhythm to it, or you can sort of be a bit more reserved, hang back, not overheat your weapons. But when you get good at the timing, you can just be there, just like, and reload quickly, and he goes into his new attack. You can close the distance. He's got really good melee abilities as well, Peter Quill. So mm-hmm. you can switch between gunplay and melee really fluidly in a really satisfying way. He also has elemental abilities on his gun as well. So in the section of the game that I played, I had access to an ice shot, which lets you freeze enemies. Which also increases their stagger bar. I should point out, enemies have like a stagger bar, and when that's full, you can do like a special finishing move on them. And you can also use the ice bullet outside of combat as well. Like there was a little mini puzzle section where I had to freeze a bit of machinery to get through a door.
Nice.
And it feels really good. It's one of those games that just you play it and it just feels right. It feels nice. It feels like it's been tested and balanced, and it's just really satisfying to play.
What attacks do the other characters have?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Rosie.
Oh, here we go.
That goes on to my second point. So you can't control the other Guardians, mm-hmm. but you can team up with them in combat. As I said, a bit like in Mass Effect, where you get your squad members and you can bring up like an abilities menu, and the other Guardians will just fight in battle.
Yep.
By themselves, and they're pretty good at doing that. But they will also unlock abilities as they go through, and you can assign different abilities to them. And once their abilities are ready, you can deploy those abilities whenever they're ready. And the cool thing about them is the abilities that they have are sort of designed in such a way that they combine with your abilities. Not in like a way where you have to use them in conjunction with each other. It allows you a really good amount of experimentation. So Groot, for example, has an ability called Uproot, where he just fires some roots through the ground and it throws the enemies up into the air. And that's just a great opportunity for you to unleash another one of your abilities whilst
Get a
the enemies.
combo!
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is you just can create your own combos. There's no set way that the abilities have to talk to each other, but they're always there with like a little suggestion. Like Drax has another ability where he's like, it's a ground pound ability, and that also flings enemies into the air, and it's almost like the game is inviting you. It's like,
go on, you want to fly them in the air, don't you?
Go on. You know what other abilities you've got. And it's not just Peter Quill's abilities that you can mix with your other Guardians' abilities. You can have Groot doing something. He had another ability where he has roots that just hold all the enemies in place, and then Rocket can like launch one of his attacks in there. So it offers you a really pleasing amount of experimentation. So you can have loads of fun unlocking all these abilities, seeing what they do, and figuring out really cool ways to combine them to cause absolute carnage.
That sounds like so much fun. I just want to fight now. You just made me want to just throw enemies in the air and then just get all the characters and be like, right, okay, go on, let's all just shoot them in the sky. Let's do this together.
And that's not mentioning the fact that whilst you're doing that, you also get the patented, hilarious Guardians of the Galaxy banter between all of the Guardians.
The banter.
The bants. And that leads into my third point, in which it's just fun to exist in the world and to move around it, because the Guardians are constantly talking to each other.
Yeah.
And the script is genuinely really good. The voice acting is really good. Whilst this is not it's not associated with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies in any way. This is Eidos Montreal developing sort of their own take on the Guardians of the Galaxy universe. But anyone who's a fan of the movies, or indeed a fan of the original comic books, will recognise those characters, and their personality is brought across really well. Like, even when you're not in combat, when you're just walking around, like in the section I played, the Milano, that's your ship, was like taken away, and Rocket, who's very protective of his ship, was like, hey, my ship, and you can choose to either agree with Rocket, or you can shut him up, or you can calm him down, and you can do these things like throughout the level. You can have all these interactions with the Guardians, and it doesn't like change the outcome of the story in any way, but it's just fun to engage in that kind of wisecracking as you play through the game. And there are also situations, like environmental situations, where being able to hack certain doors, for instance, you have to send Rocket through to do it, because he's like, the tech expert, or send him through like a small place because he's the smallest one he can fit. And I just had fun asking all of the different Guardians if they could do that thing I knew Rocket had to do, and just listening to their responses. Drax was like, I cannot do this, obviously. Groot said, I am Groot, obviously.
Of
and
course.
It's just fun. Rocket actually hilariously said no the first time, and there are situations where Rocket is the one who's got to do a thing, and he will refuse to do it just because he's a little punk. But it's all good fun. And that sort of leads on to the fourth point, which is in between missions you can hang out on the Milano, which is a thing I think, well, both for fans of Guardians of the Galaxy, but also for people who are maybe not so familiar with either the movies or the comic books, a good chance to learn more about these characters, because you can go around the Milano and you can explore all of the little rooms, and as you would expect, it's full of little fan-pleasing Easter eggs and details, and you can talk to each of them as well, and there's a good amount of depth to these conversations you can have, where you really do learn a lot of their backstory. So I was talking to Drax, I was talking to Gamora. I'm not like a massive Guardians of the Galaxy expert, and I found it really interesting learning more about these characters, stuff that I didn't already know, where they come from, what their motivations are. And again, it sort of reminded me in a way of those little bits in between missions in Mass Effect, where you look forward to those bits, because you can just go back to the Milano and hang out with your crew and talk to them and get more story out of it in that way. And it was just, I found it very satisfying.
Did they like walk around as well, like, doing their own thing, or is it like in Mass Effect where they are like, allocated to be, so you always know where to go?
I obviously don't know for sure, because I only played this one section of the game, but the characters were in sort of like separate, they all have their own compartment on the ship, but also Drax was there sort of getting ready for the mission, like doing like little bits
warm-ups.
of training. So it's a setting that feels full of life, and it's just, I could have easily spent ages in the Milano just poking around. I had limited time with the game, so I had to get on with the mission I was supposed to be completing, but I could have quite happily stayed there for a couple of hours just exploring every little nook and cranny and and finding all of the bits of
Yeah,
lore
definitely.
and backstory is really, really cool. The fifth and final reason, and this is, I think, my favourite thing in the game so far. We're going back to the battles now. There's a mechanic called the Huddle mechanic.
Is that where he gets his little music
Yes.
player? Yes, tell me all, tell me
Oh,
all.
it's very cool. So if you're in the middle of the battle, if you're performing well enough in battle and certain requirements are met, you will be able to activate Huddle, which sort of puts a pause on the battle. I don't know what your opponents are doing at this point. It's almost like they call it, right, time out, and the Guardians all huddle together, and you get a short opportunity to engage in dialogue with the Guardians. So they'll be saying, maybe Drax will be like, we're really under pressure here, we need to sort this out, and you have to pick the right option to basically boost the morale of your team. And if you pick the right dialogue option, the huddle is successful. Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, will choose a piece of iconic 80s music to play, and
Brilliant.
everyone's abilities sort of get better, like all their cooldowns drop, all their HP is refueled, they're all sort of ready to go, and it's almost like a morale boosting pep talk, and everyone starts fighting at the peak of their abilities. But also you have amazing piece of icon. There's a bunch of 80s licensed music tracks in the game, and one of these will start playing at that point, and it's weird how much that sort of changes your feeling in the battle as well. If it's a battle that's been going really hard, you're like, oh my god, this is tough, I can't do it. All of a sudden you have this huddle, the cool music comes on, and you feel like, yes, I can do this. And it's weird how it actually influences how you feel as well. It's like the huddle makes you feel, it boosts your morale.
Well, it's like when you go
as
to
your
the
team.
gym and then you've got like pumping up
Exactly.
music, and then you're like, yeah, I can do this.
It reminded me of Skyrim when you're fighting a dragon, and the good dragon fighting music comes on, and it turns what should be, a really intimidating, terrifying situation into all of a sudden, just from that change of music, you're like, oh, yes, I can do it, and it really does make you feel like a badass.
I thought you were going to say, oh, it reminds me of Skyrim when they got 80s music playing in that. And I was like, no, I don't think that's Skyrim. I think that's a different game.
In there. But just that change of music was really good. And it looks great as well when he decides to do the huddle. He gets his Walkman out. He's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really cool. So,
can you give an example of like a song you heard, or?
I don't know anything about music, Rosie. I don't know the titles
Sing
of the
it.
music. No. There will be no musical performances here. You can see on the video like a list of the tracks.
Okay, right.
I'm not going into it.
I'll ask you later on. It's fine.
I'll
ask you off camera.
I'm not doing singing.
You will
I will not be doing singing in the office. But there you go, Rose. There are 5 reasons I think you should not sleep on Guardians of the Galaxy when it comes out on PS4 and PS5 on October the 26th. So please do let us know in the comments. Give this video a like if you've enjoyed it, and please don't forget to subscribe and click the bell if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on anything from the world of PlayStation.
PlayStation